Welcome. In front of me is a OnePlus 12R, and today I'll go over unboxing along with a quick look at the device itself. So let's get straight into it. Now I do need to find my little knife, which looks to be missing. Fantastic. I guess I have this one. There we go. Okay, getting in the box, we are presented with the typical slogan from OnePlus, never settle. Okay, nothing interesting in here apart from paperwork. Hope that there would have been like a case or anything, but nope. I'll get the phone itself. Now, in terms of the design, it's almost identical to the 12, the non-R version of it. Then we get a charger. This is a 100-watt SuperVOOC charger, so that's pretty sweet. And a cable, Type-C to Type-A. So, there we go, there's our phone. And all of the accessories, which isn't much, but unlike Samsung, at least OnePlus decides to still include a charger in a box, which is just nice. And unlike Samsung, their chargers aren't absolute dog shit. So this is a 100-watt charger, which is really good. Now in a second, you will see the display, which is a 6.78-inch display running a resolution of 1264 by 2780. So just a little bit over 1080p and below 1440. Which, for a screen this size, I still think going over 1080p is overkill. So I consider this display, or any display that is running a 1080p resolution, to be sharp enough for me to not be able to see any difference between anything above that. So I would say this is a sweet spot, and it's great. Now, additionally, this is a LTPO4, whatever the 4 stands for, I have no clue, AMOLED display that boasts 1 billion colors, 120 Hz refresh rate, HDR10+, Dolby Vision, and a peak brightness of 4500 whopping nits. So you might need to put sunglasses when using this device, or when it's maxed out in brightness, as it's basically like staring into the sun. But keep in mind, most devices that boast this kind of brightness only boast it on paper. And for instance, Samsung does have, I think, like 3500 nits brightness, or 25, but that setting is hidden in the brightness setting. So by default, you actually wouldn't have this kind of brightness visible no matter if you're outdoors or not, because in most cases high brightness is utilized for short periods of time when the device detects bright environment. Like for instance, during summer, if you go outside, it's super sunny, the device will boost up the brightness and then it just drops off after like a couple minutes, and you can kind of see the display going dim. So I assume the 4500 nits that you get right here, peak brightness, is also temporary, and in most cases you have to enable some kind of switch in the settings for that to even take effect. But now, continuing on into the back of the device, we have our triple camera setup, and going into a bit more into depth, we have a 15 megapixel wide sensor with optical image stabilization and PDAF. Then we have 8 megapixel ultra wide and, oh god, a 2 megapixel macro sticker camera. So that's a bit of an L right there for OnePlus. I guess they did settle after all with the 2 megapixel macro. Now the reason I'm saying that is because no matter what kind of shit lens you might have as a 50 megapixel, it might be even on a budget device, it will always outperform the 2 megapixel macro. Just because 2 megapixels is just a little bit too small of a sensor to give you anything that is reasonable. And 2 times the zoom on a 15 megapixel will give you a high resolution, higher fidelity, sharper image than the dedicated lens that's supposed to be good at capturing close-up shots of whatever the heck you pointed at, which it fails compared to always the default main sensor. So it's, like I said, a sticker camera. It's useless, and manufacturers just added to, give you the triple camera setup so they don't fall behind other devices that also include the shit 2 megapixel sensor. because apparently that became a standard to give you the dog shit as a for your money that you will never use. Awesome, love it. Now anyway, at the front we got a 16 megapixel wide sensor. Now with back sensors you can shoot at 4K, 30 or 60 frames per second, so that's pretty good, and 1080p, the same thing, plus slow motion of 120 and 240. And you have gyro electronic image stabilization, also optical image stabilization. And with the selfie camera, you can do 1080p 30 frames only with the gyro electronic image stabilization. So, with that out of the way, let's move over to the internals, which the device kind of falls behind when compared to the non-R version of this device. There's a joke to be made, but I think I should refrain from speculating what the R is for. In any case, so this device is still no slouch. It is coming with a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. The newest one right now is Gen 3, so that's why it's kind of falling behind, but because of that you will have a bit of a cheaper price tag for this device, while still retaining most of the benefits of the 12 series. And frankly, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 and Gen 3, there's not much of a difference. If you're more of a casual user, you like to take photos and do typical things that most people do on their devices, you actually probably won't see any kind of meaningful difference between these two. Probably to you they will basically feel exactly the same. The only time you might feel a difference between these specs, meaning the Snapdragons that are in these two different versions of the device, is probably in gaming. And we're talking about like heavy gaming, not talking about like Candy Crush or some crap like that. We're talking about games that actually require power. So that might be the only place where you will see the difference. Other than that, everything else should probably feel about the same. The split seconds of like times that it will take faster for apps to open on the Snapdragon Gen 3, it's not something that you can literally in a realistic scenario actually observe. So fantastic device all in all. Then in terms of battery, it is being powered by a 5500 mAh battery, and you obviously get to charge it at 100 whopping watts, which, let's see, it apparently gets your device from 1% to 100 in 26 minutes. Let's put that in perspective. Samsung's in 26 minutes won't even get half the battery. Here we get literally full, and this is advertised, by the way. So, continuing on, we do have under display fingerprint sensor. So just wanted to point that out because obviously you can't see it on the power button, and I haven't set it up, so just wanted to add that. Then we do have this switch for the silent and all that ring. So it's still here, which is honestly a really nice slider. I always loved that on any devices. I believe iPhones were the first ones to introduce such a slider. So I like the inclusion of it. When you're swapping it, obviously you get a nice tactile feedback from the haptics right here, which are pretty decent. And speaking from experience, flipping that for fun will not really break it after like years of doing so. So you can fiddle around with it when you're bored. Shouldn't be much of a problem. Okay, so anything else here that I left out? I don't honestly think so. All right, there is one thing that I didn't mention going back to the display. So we have Corner Gorilla Glass Victus 2 on the display right here, and also we're boasting about 90% screen to body ratio, though honestly it doesn't look as good as it does on some other devices that have go to the settings. There we go. Ooh, that's a little bit too bright. There we go. It does boast a 4500 nit brightness. In any case, you can see we do have a bit of a bezel at the bottom and top with a hole punched camera right here. So most of the 90% that you get is because of the curved display. It's somehow calculated a bit differently, so even though it might still look like we have a bezel, because of the curved display it's just a bit wonky. But that being said, it's still pretty nice looking display, almost bezel-less. Just pointing that out because there are phones that have a flat display that will look better when it comes to like screen to body ratio. So it will look like you're just holding the display almost, with millimeters of bezel, literally. So yeah, there we go. That's about it. Last thing that I didn't mention is the price of this device, which it does come at about $500 US. That's not including tax. And it is a pretty decent entry price for the device that honestly I would say competes with other even like Chinese brands that do produce really decent value for the money, specifically the Poco lineup from Xiaomi. They are usually the ones that just kind of, give you a fantastic device for the money that is really spec'd out. But it does suffer a bit on the quality. So for instance, you would have like more of a plastic feel to the device, where the plastic might be on the back is used, or the frame might not be as robust, like titanium, or in this case I think it's aluminum. So sometimes you just suffer on the quality. Here it's $500 and you still have things like Gorilla Glass Victus at the front, aluminum frame, glass back, and all that, along with an IP64 water and dust proofing. This is proofing, not resistance, so keep that in mind. Additionally, obviously it's running Android 14, which is the newest one right now, on the Oxygen OS 14 skin. So that's basically everything that is about this device. It's a decent device from OnePlus that is catering more towards the mid-range. And with that being said, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.